Thank you for joining me for another episode of What Saith the Crooked Nose. Today, I have somebody very special to talk to. I mean, I guess everyone is all special, and I'm really excited to talk to. But this one in particular, Linda Eskay, right? She is a paragon in many ways of this Peter Sage, elite mentorship, peer group, and she doesn't just talk the talk; she walks the walk. And the fact that she's in the metaphysical space as well makes me deeply excited to have this conversation, because as you all know, I live in that deeply metaphysical space, but also in the Newtonian science that also very much interests me. And so I love to have conversations with people who are finding this way to be able to help transform others in a way that deeply touches spirituality and deeply touches their the metaphysical realm. And I think that you are in for an incredible episode. So as always, go ahead and like the video, go ahead and subscribe, and comment below. Let us know what it is that you loved, what it is that maybe we lost you somewhere, or if you'd like a little bit more clarification, let us know, so then we can adapt and see how we can be better serve the audience. And again, I am very excited for this. Linda Eskay, thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be an incredible conversation. And for those who don't know, Linda is a transformational life coach who works in the metaphysical space. She's an expert helping people who engage in personal development, but who still aren't achieving results no matter how much personal development they do. They may know about the other laws of the universe and now want to learn how to actually work with them instead of bucking the current all the time in an upstream battle. Linda has learned through her journey and experiences that when we suspend all that we've been taught and truly see that our current belief systems aren't serving us, we can make different choices. It's within this cycle that we learn it is possible to create a life we love. We learn that happiness isn't something we seek. It's the natural occurrence when we live a truly authentic life. And that right there is powerful, Linda. Hey, how the heck are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey,
This
my
has been a
pleasure.
couple weeks coming, right?
Yeah.
Since I was traveling and couldn't get on your calendar. And so when I got back, I was right there to sign up. So thank you very much.
Well, hey, my pleasure, and I'm glad to have you here. And with that powerful, point at the end, chances are somebody doesn't truly know what authentic life is until they realize they weren't living one. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I was guilty. I thought I was living an authentic life true to, who I was, but then I discovered I didn't really know who I was.
Mm.
So yeah, the journey really showed me what it really means to live authentically to your soul. And when I work with people, and even for myself, right, we ask ourselves, well, what do we want? What are we seeking? I just want to be happy, is what people say. And happiness can't be created. It's a natural byproduct of being authentic, because you no longer care what other people think about you. You're just living true to your soul. And that produces happiness, because you're not worried about judgment or what people may be thinking about you. Or so yeah, it's a very honest place, and takes work to get there.
Well, and then without that honesty with ourselves, most importantly, right? How can we truly know ourselves, right? Because if we are engaging in lies with even ourselves, I mean, that's probably the biggest tragedy, right? And
Mhm.
I think that honesty is a really huge step forward to changing ourselves and changing our trajectory. And if we truly want to have an impact on the world, whether it be locally or whether it be on a global level, well, it's got to come from within.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. This journey has been, for me, nothing short of miraculous. I can't explain it. I've just been able to really connect with the concepts. I really understand them, and as a human being, though, in the physical, right, it's still. I don't like the word struggle, but it still produces challenges, because we're still living in a physical world that has certain rules and things that we agree to. So we're still going to have obstacles and challenges, and that we can't change. But it's a matter of the emotional mastery coupled with other things, and being able to understand truly that everything we experience is for our own benefit. or for our growth and expansion. So when we can change the lens that we look at our experiences and find the gifts, it changes everything. It changes everything.
And when did you start having this sort of awareness?
So what's interesting is I shared with you before, 5 short years ago, I was a risk analyst in a life insurance company and living in a cubicle, auditing digital files all day with no meaningful human interaction. I used to get excited to go heat up my lunch or go to the bathroom just so I could possibly run into somebody I could talk to.
I
How
know
was your
that life.
weekend? Did you watch
Yeah.
so-and-so last night? And it was a very miserable existence. And I didn't realize at the time, because I didn't know anything about this work. I'd never heard of law of attraction. I didn't know anything about life coaching. I was miserable to the point of multiple medications for anxiety, and I still would shake, and it was changing my brain. The dosage was going higher and higher, was changing who I was. Ultimately, I was blessed with being laid off from that job. And that was really the beginning for me, because I always had the belief that everything's always working out for me. So while I practiced the belief that I needed that large paycheck so that we could sustain our lifestyle, which at the time meant pay the bills, pay the mortgage and eat. What I found by tuning into that belief that everything is always going to be okay and I'm always supported and everything works out was I found a piece that I didn't know was there, just a knowing that I was always going to be okay. And money started to flow into our lives in ways that I can't explain, but it just was always showing up. And not just like when we needed it. We went on multiple vacations each year, and we weren't able to do that when I had a job because I always had to take time off, right? It was this magical time. But what's funny is I was being led to certain professional, I don't know, opportunities that logically made no sense to me. I'm like, why would I take this 100% commission role with this startup? Like, that's not something I would ever do. But I felt in my gut and my heart that if I didn't do it, if I didn't take that leap, I was going to regret it for the rest of my life. I can't explain that feeling to anybody. I just knew that I had to do that. So I did that. I didn't make any money doing it, but it helped me grow. Then I did this. I didn't make any money doing that, but it helped me grow in a different way. And I became empowered. I was a meek, it was just a miserable existence. I didn't have any self-confidence. I didn't know where my life was going. I just knew that I felt trapped. I was living in that to me mode, victim mode, right? And I didn't know what to do about it. So anyway, then it just led me to law of attraction. A friend introduced me to Abraham Hicks' work, and I just got hook, line, and sinker into that. Then I got to a point where I was like thinking to myself, there has to be something more than just fine tune your vibration and get into alignment. I'm missing something. And then I found a teacher came into my life at the right time who taught me about limiting beliefs. I had never heard that term before. And I understood that my own inner demons, the things I experienced in my life, were things that were creating resistance in my energetic vibration that was preventing these amazing things to flow into my life. So I worked on that aspect of it, right? Learning modalities. I became certified in that work so I could do that with other people. And it was amazing, still is. But I believe that piece of it was integral in helping me get where I am today, because it's been able to allow me to release a lot of the resistance that I didn't even know was there, the layers, the onion. And then I found Peter Sage's work, at the right time. So once again, I was feeling like I was ready for more, and I didn't really know what that meant. I just felt like this is amazing. I want to explore something else, and I want to go next level. So, to answer your question in a long-winded way, is I just kept following the lily pads. I was following my gut, I was following my heart, and it was such a pull. It was such a powerful pull. I couldn't deny it. And so I've gotten really good at just trusting that, and going through Elite Mentorship Forum, and then becoming, a trainer in that space. It's just been so soul filling, all of the work, and taking me to the next level and really helping me understand that we are energetic beings at our core, and whatever we are energetically vibrating at as far as frequency is what we're creating in our life. So If we want to have a different life, if we want changes in our life, then we have to change our life, right? If we want different things in our life, then we have to change the way that we're going about life. And a lot of it is the deep layers, you know, some of it is ancestral. So it's about really knowing how to clear that stuff out of your energy and tune into the vibrational resonance and the vibrational frequency that you desire, you know, what you desire to create.
Well,
So
and what's
that's how I got here.
well, and what's so interesting about that too is that so often, we'll find people say, and kind of like, you talk about, I just want to be happy, which is effectively just saying, I don't want to be unhappy.
Right.
And, that's typically what people say, like that's what the hidden meaning is. I just want to be happy is I just don't want to be here. And if you just don't want to be there, well, then walk into the next room. But the problem is that feeling follows us because we're not focusing on what it is that we truly want in an obtainable fashion, right? Happiness is an ephemeral idea that you said, so succinctly, is that it's just natural occurrence, right? Of this byproduct of us living authentically. And do you think that's because the soul, right, our heart, it just knows, it knows, and it tells us, hey, you come on, you don't believe that.
Yeah, 100%. Because, living in a vibrational universe, we understand that there is a higher power, God, angels, universe, source energy, whoever you want to pray to. We know that there's something bigger than us. This entity or energy wants us to thrive. It wants us to be happy. So our soul knows. And we've just unfortunately got too wrapped up in being a human being and tying into how our brain works and why, that's a whole nother talk show, but understanding that our brain is designed for our survival. So it just has the one job of keeping us safe and alive, and it loves default programming. So the more it can run on default, like pumping your blood, and my hair is growing right now, I don't have to think about that. I don't have to make that happen. It just happens. So our brain loves to run on whatever programming we pick up, as children, whether that's not good enough or not valued or, not pretty enough or thin enough or rich enough or whatever that is. It's just like happy that it gets to run on that program and it doesn't want you to change. So going back to what you were just saying, going from, you can change what room you're in, sure. But I often use the visual of Pigpen from the Peanuts cartoon. And we have this energetic vibrational cloud around us, and it goes wherever we are. So wherever you go, there you are, is the whole thing. And so we can go into a different room, but until we're focusing on cleaning out or changing or whatever the word you want to use is in your cloud, it's still going to go with you. You take it wherever you are. So you can change jobs or partners or homes. You're still going to have the same experiences. They're going to be with different people or in a different environment, but basically you're still attracting the same thing back to you, frustration or I'm not good enough or whatever. So that's where the work comes in, and helping people understand that it's just you walking around with this energetic field, and you're basically pulling things out of the pigpen cloud and like a boomerang and chucking it up into the universe. And the quantum field is just seeing what you sent up, and it's going, oh, give her more of that, give him more of that, because that's what you're asking for. Because the universe doesn't waste energy. It's never going to give you something that doesn't match your belief system and your model of the world. That wouldn't make sense. If the quantum field did that for all of us, imagine the chaos in the field, the chaos in the pattern, right? The chaos in the force. It just would never happen. So it keeps homeostasis by just keep, rendering us what we're asking for. And it doesn't care what's good or bad for us and what we deem good or bad. What's bad for me might be good for you. So It doesn't have judgment. It doesn't make that discernment.
Yeah, well, morality doesn't live anywhere except for in the mind of a human.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
And,
sir.
when we start moralizing, well, then we start separating ourselves into this idea of good and bad. And the problem with that is that creates a lot of disharmony, right? And, and a lot of times what we find as good or bad is really just, male and feminine energy. If we separate the male and feminine energy, well, then what happens a lot of times is that we're breaking a fundamental law, comes from the Kabbalion, right? The principle of gender. And, if I'm constantly focused on my conscious awareness, but I'm not aware of the subconscious programming, well, I'm not in tune with my divine feminine, right? I'm only running with that masculine energy. And what happens with masculine energy, like fire? Well, what happens if fire has no fuel? Right? But that feminine energy is that space, I found, that can hold
Mm,
that fire and not get burned. And then you can
mm,
really excel. And then you can find your fire might be exactly what's necessary to cook a seed, so then it's ready to actually, start to grow, right? Like many trees, right? In the
right.
forest, or, sanitize the ground, right? Of the microbes, and creating, a vibrant new ground for things to emerge, to
Right.
slough off, right? In much the same way that you described, about how, you tried your commission job, and yeah, you may not have made money, but you started to become a bit of a different type of person, because you're kind of burning away things that were no longer necessary, that were no longer useful for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really fun. It's really fun. It's been um, it's been very exciting to learn that the bends in the river are for my benefit.
Mm,
And I keep doing this, like, right, I think, oh, this is my path, I get to do this the rest of my life, and then all of a sudden something happens and it goes nope. And I get to that point and it's like, okay, clearly I'm not supposed to go down that way anymore. So instead of forcing it, or beating my head against the door or the boulder or the riverbank or whatever, I just allow it to flow in a different way. And every single time, what is coming down the river is so much more beautiful than I could have imagined. It's so much more powerful than I could have ever created myself. And so that is, when we continue to do that, it just reinforces what we're learning, and how we keep applying the tools, and we keep applying what we're learning, and we keep working with the laws of the universe. Like you said in my intro, it is about understanding the laws of the universe. We know gravity works. We don't know how it works, but we just know it does, and we accept it. And we've known that since kindergarten, that there's a
mhm,
force holding us to the planet. So if we can help people understand all the other laws of the universe, then, the law of balance and harmony, right? And when we get really worked up about something and we create an intense need for something to happen, then the universe is, we're out of balance, and the universe is going to come along and throw challenges, and obstacles in our way to try to knock that down. And we can see that time and time again. There's evidence of all of it. And so that's what I've learned to do, is just go with the laws of the universe. And like I said, I noted earlier, it's still a human being. I
yeah.
still get triggered sometimes. I still get confused. I still, I don't know what the word is, dissatisfied with what comes into my experience. But when you really learn to tune into those laws and understand them, you just see things in with a different lens. It's a completely
Mm,
different perspective, and it's so freeing. That's where the peace and the happiness and the harmony and the all of that comes into your life, because you just
mhm,
trust. I trust a higher power. I surrender to life, and I'm not letting go of the wheel or letting go of the oars. I have free will, but when something comes into my experience, I have the choice. How am I going to handle this? Am I going to fight it, or am
mm.
I going to embrace it? And
And
that's what surrendering to life means.
well, and so surrendering as well, right? So you became, not only went through the elite mentorship forum, but then became a trainer for that. And how did your perspective start changing as you were taking other people through this work?
My perspective, that's a really good question. And that was a very good lesson as well, because I have my experience, I have my results, and I also do private coaching. I have several different areas that I provide coaching in, whether it's spiritual or life or business. But what it showed me was that every single person is going to have a unique experience.
Mm,
So my results were mine, world travel, things opened up for me. Money was flowing. That may not be what somebody else wants. So it was a lesson in seeing that it's not about me helping someone else experience world travel. It's about me just guiding them through and teaching the tools and providing the coaching so that they get the results that their soul seeks.
Mm.
and me not being responsible for other people's results. That was a big lesson, where I always wanted to help people get really, life-changing transformational results. And we're all at a different place on the continuum of our journey. So not everybody's ready to experience that massive breakthrough
Yeah.
that I did, and that was, and that's okay. That's
And
okay.
did
I
you
try to meet
find that
people where
even
they
though
are.
that you were, even though, sorry to cut you off,
No, no, you're
even
fine.
though that you were finding these massive results, did you find that there was even more magic as you were taking others through? Like maybe you were finding a deeper layer in that onion that you didn't really know existed, because it wasn't just you teaching you, it was you teaching somebody else, which is forcing you to master this stuff even more.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. When the questions come up and you almost get stumped, you just kind of tune into your own intuition. And a lot of times it's just putting it back on the other person. So their perspectives and their questions obviously were there for a reason, for my growth and expansion,
Mm.
for whatever reason. So if I could say back to somebody, I do this a lot when I'm coaching people one-on-one, private coaching, when I ask them something and they say, I don't know. And then it becomes this back and forth of, well, if you did know, what would the answer be? So it's not about me telling anyone what to do. I don't do that. I guide, to your intuition, to what's in your heart and what you know to be true. And when you start tuning into that, when we all do, then it increases our awareness. It increases our believability that, hey, this really works. I really do have the answers. And a lot of times, even my own spiritual path, I would ask others who were channeling answers to questions. And when I got the answers, I realized I already knew that. It's like,
Mm.
actually, if I really tuned into myself, I really already felt that in my heart. So I think that's, for me, that's the most powerful part of this work. It's not about helping people do X or get Y in their life. It's about helping them tune into who they are, why their soul is here, what
Mm-hmm.
what are their gifts, what's their mission,
Yeah.
what drives them.
Mm.
And then the magic happens from there, and they're off and running. It's like a stripper jumping out of a birthday cake. It's amazing. It's amazing when people realize, they had it inside all along. And that's really what my goal is.
Mm. And so you mentioned channeling, and you've been working with Samantha Kaufman. Um,
Mm-hmm.
can you tell us a little bit about your personal channeling experience, and how it is that you got to a place where you were so moved and wanted to bring others kind of to that sort of modality?
Yeah, and the first time I was sharing a little bit earlier, the first time that I experienced that was Samantha. We were colleagues and friends, and I reached out to her because I was doing my own inner work, and I got to a block in my heart that I needed to connect with my mother. So I reached out to her as a medium. My mother's been passed for 20 years, and I needed some answers from my mother's soul. And so in that session, before we got to talking to mom, she was reading my guides, and my guides were giving me clear messages about what was coming. And at the time, I had no idea what they were talking about, but they said things like, we're going to open up the whole world for you. This was August 2021. Hold on to your seat, because this is going to be a roller coaster ride. You can't even imagine what's coming. I mean, I remember these things specifically. I wrote them down and I've, relived them. They said, there's going to be a lot of contrast in your path. So be prepared for that. And this isn't going to be what you think it is. And like, I just got chills right now. I couldn't have known what was coming, and 2 weeks later, I found Peter Sage's work, and it absolutely blew the doors open for me, and just wide off, like, oh my God, this was mind blowing stuff when I understood that our reality is malleable based on our consciousness. That's the umbrella version of it. Right. And helping us break down all the bricks of who we were based on other people's assignments of what
Mm.
we should be, and being able to rebuild ourselves in the view of our souls lens. What do we value, what do we desire out of our lives, and why are we here? And so I definitely, yeah, I went down that road. I graduated from Elite Mentorship Forum in April of last year, became a trainer in June, led a cohort that started in August and they graduated in February of this year. So it's been like this crazy, roller coaster ride. And last year visited 10 countries and then 3 more this year, and it's not even May yet. So, but that's another thing too, right? Split energy. I desire to attract clients into my world right now because I'm really at that amazing, magical place of wanting to work with people again. And I recognize that I need to be here. I can't be flitting around the world, if I want to work with clients, not right now. So that's where my energy is. But yeah, the second time was October when I met back with Samantha. I reached back out to her and I said, and we had been keeping in touch all this time.
Sure.
I'm very confused about the state of my business right now. I had prospective clients, that I had attracted into my world, and I was really engaging with them, and things were feeling really good about starting another cohort, which was my intention to do so in October. And one by one, they just started to disappear. And it was very confusing to me because I felt like, well, I thought this was my path, right? This is another bend in the river. So I didn't understand what was happening energetically. If my heart was full and I really wanted to do this again, why wasn't it working out the way I wanted it to, And so I tuned back into Samantha's guides and the archangels, and the message was really interesting. They asked me why I had gotten away from private coaching. And basically the umbrella answer was, well, this is easier. Private coaching can be difficult sometimes. And now, I kind of recognize my own energy and where I was at the time, and that is completely shifted. So anyway, that's again a sidebar, but they said, we've been watching you humans for millennia. When your soul knew that this was the time of ascension to the 4th and 5th dimension, you begged to be here. You wanted to be a part of this. Getting chills again.
Yeah, I got the chills too. That's funny.
Yes, I thought, what? So they said, you begged to be here. So basically put your big girl pants on and get back out front and do the work you came here to do, because you didn't come here to take a back seat to anybody, and you didn't come here to sit in the shadow of anyone else. You're here for a reason. So that has really been my journey since I got that message in October. It really helped me tune into how can I meet people where they are, because my life had become such a whirlwind of world travel and magical things happening that I couldn't even explain. I mean, I just couldn't understand how all of these things, it was an avalanche of just magical happenings. And I recognized that I had gotten to a place where I was no longer relatable. Because what I was sharing about my life and the excitement of my life in that last year, was world travel. And it was exciting to me. And I was sharing it all over Facebook. But, I recognized that people looking at my picture in a hot tub with a glass of champagne on a yacht in Croatia with Peter Sage on a lounger behind me, that's not a relatable person. Because people are at home worried about gas prices and how they're going to feed their family and getting sick, and the economy and politics. I mean, that's what people were worried about. How can I meet them where they are and help them through these trying times? And a lot of times people think that they want to quantum leap, right? I know that I hate my life the way that it is right now, or certain aspects of it. How do I get there? How do I take that rocket ship to get there? And it's not the way it works, right? We have to give people digestible things that make sense to them where they are in the moment, on, where they are on their journey. And that is how we increase their believability. Then they become more coachable, then they become, believers of what's possible. And then we just, we help them go up the steps. So that's, how my work with Samantha has gotten me here. And then we started, it was so powerful for me and my journey, and gave me such clarity and insight and guidance and direction. It was like so mind-blowing. When I tuned into where my soul was meant to go, everything shifted, everything changed. And the floodgates opened, and opportunities, and, speaking. And it was crazy. So I said, we have to bring this model to other people, where she's channeling archangels and galactics And I'm there at the same time as the coach who's helping people integrate the messages into practical way, into practical solutions for their life, strategies that they can apply. And it's been absolutely mind-blowing to see people, the stripper out of the cake, see their light and know that their past is not bad. It shaped them to who they are. And it is the reason why they're here in this time period. And if they didn't experience the things that they did, they wouldn't be able to help the people that they want to help.
That's
Right?
awesome. That's powerful. I love that.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that you have found personally surprising, right? Maybe you had a client that was dealing with something that they were so convinced, and maybe even started to convince you. And then you had them, with the channeling work and then with your coaching work on top. And then you both kind of realized, or maybe they just realized, like, holy cow, I've been so, even though I may have been kind of close, I've been completely off base on the trajectory of where I need to go in order to actually harness, right, that magic of life and become that truly authentic self.
I think there's layers to that question, and I'm not sure that I can answer it in the sense that the direction you're going with it. What we have discovered is that there are things in people's vibration that they had no idea that was the thing that was keeping them from becoming the fullest expression of themselves. Never even occurred to them. And I continue to do that too, so when things come up, it's kind of I didn't even know that was in there. But what's amazing with the work is when we clear out the big boulders, the easy stuff, the cherry picking stuff, on top, it leaves room for the stuff that's pushed way down that we don't even know is there to come up. Now, what happens when that happens, and I preempt, I prepare my clients, when we're doing the work, they're going to get hit out of left field and blindsided and gut punched by an experience that, what? And we just have to take a pause and stop and ask ourselves, how is this making me feel? And then again, you have right there the flashlight shining on you, telling you what is in your vibration that is creating this experience, because the experience itself is benign. I run my car into the garage, I knock the shelf off the wall. They're benign experiences. It's how did it make me feel?
Yeah.
Well, you're such an idiot, you should have known better. That was the thing that kept coming into my head when I experienced. So I see a pattern, I'm like, okay, now I need to do the work on where is that coming from, and I did, and I saw it clearly, because our inner being is always going to show us what we need when we need it, right? When we're ready. One of the things that was really interesting, so I discovered that my niche is coaches, and I've been led to that just based on my own experiences of not being good enough and thinking I need to take this class or get that certification before I do blah, blah, blah. I need a website, and all that. And it's no. But what's been really interesting is trying to understand where the paralyzing fear is coming from. That fear of, I've been called to this work. And this is, for a lot of the ones that we've been working with, I've been called to this work. I don't know why. I can't explain it. A life event has brought me here. I felt the pull. I'm doing the work. I want to share this with others. They get up to the edge and they freeze. And I know this feeling because I've experienced it myself. And they don't know where that fear is coming from. And what we've discovered is that a lot of us have experiences in our past lives where this is not the first time that we've been trying to share this work, where we've been in this light working space and helping others raise consciousness and, the ascension, right? It's not the first time. And we can see this in history over hundreds of years that people have brought this work to light, if you will, and they've been persecuted for it. So for many of us, we have in our past lives experiences of being burned, drowned, stoned to death, beaten in a back alley. We've been killed or maimed, persecuted heavily for trying to do this work. So it's kind of in our DNA, at a deep level. And we don't know where that's coming from. But when we can get that out on the table and say, oh, well, isn't that interesting? We can also say, no one's going to kill me in 2023. for doing this work. They might side eye me and, roll their eyes. That's fine, but no one's going to come at me with a torch, or put me in a cage for it. So when we can, this is just one of the examples, when we can look at what's causing that paralyzing fear, and we can say, well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then it releases, we've shifted the belief about it when we didn't even know it was there to begin with. So that's what the layers of the work is all about. And yeah, that mirrors back to me all the time.
And just shining that light of awareness onto that energy, just be like, oh, this is the bugaboo that's been hiding and lurking in the shadows, that's been, kind of roping me in. And when I expose that bugaboo and realize that it's at most a bug that I can just kind of flick and be done with, then that giant shadow was just a matter of perspective, because the way the light was shining that bug made it look huge. And then when I realized it was just a tiny bug, well, now there's no shadow. Now there's nothing there to hold me back.
Yeah, and isn't it all about awareness? It's all about education and awareness. And when we can see it for what it is, it's the exact thing when I talk to people about judgment. One of the things that our brain is designed to do is go to the worst case scenario. So you talk about the giant shadow, the boogeyman under the bed. It's because our brains are designed to keep us safe and alive. So if you're walking along the path as a cave child and there's a rustle in the bushes, it might be a bunny, it might be a bird, it might be the breeze, but it also could be a tiger.
Yeah.
And for our survival's sake, our brain is designed to think, it's a tiger, you better get out of here. So when we're experiencing things in our life that are confusing, or we don't understand, or we don't like, our brain is designed to go to that worst case scenario, but it's false. It's false, when we can back ourselves down off of that cliff very quickly, when we just do a series of, what's the worst thing that could happen? Then what? Then what? Then what? And it's like, oh, well, actually, that's kind of silly. It's probably not going to happen. When I lost my job, the first thing I thought was, we're going to lose our home. That's the first thought I had. And I'm still here. 5 years later, still here. I haven't had a job since that, February, whatever year that was, 5 years ago, and just following my path and following my highest excitement and following my mission and why I'm here.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I'm sure that this has been, quite a journey. And for those who may be watching this, who feel that calling of their soul, like you, right? I should go do something, but I don't know if it's going to work out for me. What do you think, is there any advice that you could give them to help them maybe tune in and relax into that calling and into that whisper?
So I think first it's important to recognize that I think most people don't know what their purpose is, why they're here. And most people think that they should know, or they believe they should feel there's a purpose. And so through a series of exercises and conversations, we can either find out what lit you up as a kid, why you're really here to share your gifts. And that could just be through painting. It could, and I don't mean just through, I mean sharing your expressive soul version of yourself through artwork, but you've been told that you can't make money as an artist, so you've never explored that, right? So giving them giving them the gift of giving permission to themselves to live their life. That's one. Helping people understand that they might not have this grandiose plan, and that our soul's job, growth and expansion. So when we can appreciate the growth and expansion that we're experiencing in our life and keep going up to the next levels and next levels, and that's why our soul is here. Our soul decided to come into this physical because XYZ, ABC, I want to experience this. And that's why we're here. So that really is understanding that our soul's job is just to shine our light so brightly that others want to come sit beside us and hear our story, and we can share who we are. That's our job.
What I like about that too is that, when we do that, and then we're sharing the light of our campfire with others, and they come and sit next to us, it doesn't take all that long for people, if to realize, like, hey, you know what, Linda's just a person. I'm just a person. Hey,
Right.
Linda's gone through some experiences. Hey, I'm going through some experiences. Hey, you know what? Linda really made something of herself. Hey, I can probably make something of myself. And realize that there's really little difference, if any at all, between the people that we see and that we admire and ourselves. It's just a lot of unrealized potential.
Yes. And that's, the most amazing testimonials come from people who knew me when,
Mm,
there's a lot of people in my world right now that have only known me in the last 6 months or the last year. And they say things like, well, I can't even imagine you being like that. This is the version of you that I know. I'm like, yeah, but the river of my life back not too long ago was a toxic dump. It was
you
full
and me
of
both.
fallen trees, right? Shopping carts, old tires. There's no flow there. All I
Yeah.
was doing was reacting to the next thing. Well,
Yep.
how do I get over that? How do I get around that? There was no vision in that. It's very, you've got the blinders on and you're just trying to survive from one day to the next. That's what my life was like. And in a very short amount of time, I've been able to completely transform my life into a flow of just experiencing what comes. And it's not all champagne in a hot tub, on Croatia. It's not. Those are some magical moments. And do I experience crappy things coming up in my life? Yeah. But I look at them differently. I wouldn't experience that next level obstacle or challenge if my soul wasn't ready to tackle it. And
Mm,
that's how I look at them now. What are the gifts in this? What am I experiencing? And again, it's not to say I don't get triggered, because I do. It's not nearly as severe, but emotional mastery is about taking that pause and right between the stimulus and the response. And I can better think, how do I want to respond to this? I mean, I had this exact experience Monday night when I watched that online event that I wrote about Tuesday
Oh,
morning.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was mentioning to ask you about that. So yeah, specifically
Okay.
the Matthew McConaughey. For those who don't know, Matthew
Yeah.
McConaughey, he partnered with a couple of people, Tony Robbins being one of them. And I won't really get into it, but being that I studied with Ed Stracher, Ed has some very interesting things to say about Tony Robbins. And Peter didn't really like what he had to say apparently. But it is what it is, right? We all have our frame of the world. But yeah, I'm
Right.
curious. So you showed up to this Matthew McConaughey, which is basically, find the person that you want to be looking at you back in the mirror, effectively, right? Some approximation of that idea. And what was it that you saw in that event?
um, it was interesting because I made a quite lengthy Facebook post Tuesday morning about it. I don't know if you saw that.
I sure did.
Um, I think I broke the internet with that one. And then I, through the engagements in the comments and private engagements, when people were reaching out to me outside of Facebook, not in a mean way or an angry way, just it was a reflection, right? So I was able to, in what I was the experience, I was able to see, ask myself, what is this? How is this making me feel? I mean, I didn't have to go to it. I
Mhm.
wanted to, because I was really curious to see how it was going to be handled, because I care about this industry and about human beings, and I didn't want people preyed upon. So that's what I experienced. And I love Matthew McConaughey, so I kind of trusted that this was going to be different. And it wasn't. And by the end, it just really seemed like these, I don't even know what to call them, but the Tony Robbins and the others had, and again, I want to be careful with my words, had asked Matthew McConaughey to promote this event, knowing that he would bring in this huge following, right? And a different audience than these other ones were attracting. To me, it felt like they were preying on people's pain. But that's my perspective,
Mhm.
So I had to ask myself, how is this making me feel? So some things that came up, my own personal distrust of the personal development industry because of people like that. I deal with it all the time, because people who come to me are just, they're tired, they're fed up of not getting results, of putting money into programs that promise, the sun, moon, and the stars, and they don't get anything. Um, so there was that. And then also it was uber frustrating for me to sit there and watch it, So frustration, again, the circumstance is benign. It was frustrating for me because I was practicing energy of frustration in my life, in another area of my life.
Mhm.
So I could see that clearly. I won't get into it, doesn't matter, but it was there, you know? So also then I recognized that the protector in me was coming out. The mama bear was coming out in me and wanting to help save these people from these people. And I recognize that it's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to shine my light,
Yeah.
you know, and be the flower attracting the bees who are ready, you
Yeah.
know, for this, and recognize that those people were experiencing what they were experiencing because that was what their soul chose to do. So it was a huge lesson for me too. No, it did trigger me, but it wasn't like I went on some massive angry rant. I
Mhm.
was just writing about what I saw and how it was
It
painful for
seemed kind
me.
of like a place of sadness, almost like you were sad
Yeah.
that it happened that way.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I was. And that's a very interesting point. I'm going to put that on my list because there is an air of sadness in my vibration with a relationship in my life, only because we aren't on. I would like us to be more on the same level with the work, you know. So yeah, maybe there's sadness. Maybe there's sadness there that it just perpetuates this in people. Like, oh, that doesn't work. I tried all that stuff. It doesn't work. It's just because they don't know how to help people. They don't. The people who were promoting this event do not know how to help people. You can't yell at someone long enough and loud enough to get them to change their behavior. It's not going to produce lasting effects, you know, and results for them. So I guess that was my overall my perspective, but seeing people's comments and understanding that I was being triggered, you know, and giving me the opportunity because it was shining a light in areas of my life and my vibration where I still wanted to do some work.
Well, and what I love about that is, again, so here you are authentically expressing ideas that then allows others to say, well, hey, you know, and point out to where, you know, hey, it looks like you're being triggered in whatever way that they're saying that. And then because you're coming from a place of authenticity, you can say, oh, yeah, okay, I can see that. Rather than like, no, that's just you, right? That's just your projections. And that's so empowering because, you know, like you said, look, you know, regardless of what sort of stage that we're at, regardless of, you know, if we're a tree and we're growing, right, regardless of, you know, what level yeah, that we're at, well, we're still growing, whether it's be, you know, the unseen through the root structure or the seen in the actual, you know, the tree itself. There's still going to be growth, and we're, you know, regardless of how others might perceive us, you know, maybe we're perceived as superhuman. Well, superhuman is still human, right? And so there's still going to be human emotions. There's still going to be human things, and there's so many, and so we're going to have human trials. And, you know, to think that at some point that we're no longer going to have, you know, those human experiences, well, that means we're probably giving up the ghost at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was something that came to me when you were talking that was a really good example of that, or not an example, but just, yeah, going a little bit deeper. The work is about understanding that but there's almost 8 billion people on this planet, right?
Mhm.
We all have a unique model of the world based on our belief systems, our experiences. We all have a unique, you know, we all have unique perspectives. Even with siblings, even if you're twins and you're growing up in the same environment, you're still experiencing things differently based on your lens and your past lives and your whatever, you know? So when we can come to terms with that, it's not about me battling you over your religion or your political affiliation or whether you think the sky is blue or yellow. It's about, you know, my good friend Diana, she uses this term when she gets into a situation with somebody who's trying to convince her about their model of the world, and she just says, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
And it diffuses it, right? Because none of us are wrong. It makes no point, no, it's no benefit for me to try to enforce my model of the world on you because yours is
Mhm.
different. And you'll go to your grave defending yours. I'll go to my grave defending mine if that's what we're going to do, but I don't need to defend it.
Right.
It just is what it is. And I can with 100% respect allow you and everybody else on this planet to have their own model of the world. So when someone engages with me with feedback, I don't ever experience anything that's disrespectful, because I don't practice that vibration that people treat me with disrespect, right? But I can look at it and yeah, I can see that. I can see that about myself, and where, I can shift something there. And I thank them. I've thanked, all the people who have provided feedback to me yesterday about that post. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for helping me see the shadow, or where, my inner child was harmed at some point, So, but it's all part of the work.
Yeah.
And it's all part of not taking anything personally. Right?
I love
Because they're
that.
sharing their opinion based on their model of the world.
Yep.
And just because it doesn't match mine in the moment. But again, I created another post today to reflect on the things that day showed me. And that's being authentic. That's me coming full on and saying, you know what? I was triggered. And here's why. And it's showing me where I want to continue to do the work. And I'm so grateful for that.
So that's actually one of the reasons why I keep a lot of the, videos on my, my personal, Joshua Cameron, YouTube. Not that I have a ton of subscribers on that one. It's just more of, I want people to see the authentic growth. I had some pretty dumb ideas, and I had some pretty
It's a limiting belief, Joshua.
Yeah. Well, I had some pretty counterproductive ways and models of the world in which I would actually interact, and which would kind of control my actions. And I want people to look back and be like, whoa, bro, like, what the heck? What changed? Like, you are radically different. And they'll see that there's videos, like there's video evidence of me progressing and leaning into things, and then starting to change, and then leaning into those things, and then starting to change and leaning into those things. And I want it to be, as a map for others to be able to see, like, look, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay because if I'm actually going to be here to be a help for others, is it going to be a better help if I just show up, dun da da da, look at me today, this is the only me that's ever existed, dun da da da,
right.
Or is it like, hey, I get it, like you said, relatable. Yeah, I may at some point be sitting in a hot tub, with a glass of champagne, sitting not that far away from a multimillionaire, but that's not every day, right? That's not where I came from. I wasn't born in that world, and like, I grew into that world. Well, maybe you can grow into that world as well, and this is a great way to start. And I love your philosophy, and the way that you own your energy and your authenticity. And if there are others watching that are like, holy crap, I would really like to work with her, or at least I'd really like to talk to her more, what would be the best way for them to get in contact with you?
You're welcome to share my email address in when you post this. And
Okay.
I would say probably Facebook is the best. Facebook Messenger is the best way to reach me. And I'm on Facebook, Linda Eskay. My cover photo is, I just changed it. Isn't that funny? Oh, yes, the Sea of Daybeds when I was in Cancun. So this is a funny story of me beginning to manifest daybeds and desiring to sit in one, and being told that's $350. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't want it that bad. And then magically having one just appear with no sign and no rope on it, and like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and no one's saying anything to me, it's fine. and so it became this kind of joke with my kids. Mommy, you manifest day beds, because everywhere I went, there were these day beds that were available for me, and then just the most beautiful settings. And when I would travel, and when we went to Cancun, I did not know that our suite came with a dedicated day bed. And we were on a walkout. So I knew that I wanted to open the door and walk right out on the beach and hear the waves crashing. And when we got there, opened the curtains, there was this sea of beautiful white day beds on the sand. And it just made me giggle to myself, I just got chills again, because when we think about abundance isn't about money. Abundance just is about appreciating the abundance of the things that you love in your life. And it could be air or sunshine or day beds. And I absolutely had a chuckle to myself. I was like, all right, universe, that's a good one.
Yeah,
It's a
that's awesome.
panoramic picture of, all of these beautiful white day beds with the flowing curtains and the palm trees and the water right on the other side. So yeah, Facebook Messenger is a great way to reach me. And I love working with people who just want a better, they want a better way. They want to know a better way to do life. And they know they're coachable. They
Mm,
know they can suspend belief about everything that they've been taught. And I mean, everything. You put all that aside, trust me, learn what I have to share, do the exercises, do the activities, shift your mindset. Your world will absolutely shift. It has to, because we know the laws of the universe, the law of attraction, it does not discriminate and it is consistent. So I want to share it. What reminded me, I wrote it down. I don't know if you noticed that I was writing a word, but I wrote down the word fishbowl. When we do the work, originally, we're like, I feel like we're always in a fishbowl, right? So when you're talking about the version of yourself from several years ago or whenever that was, you were in a fishbowl.
yeah.
Your environment was matching your inner world.
Hmm.
So you didn't know any better. Like we say, I don't know what I don't know. So once you know, then you can make choices to
Yeah.
shift, right? And when we make choices to shift our mindset and our belief system, it changes the actions that we take, which then creates this snowball effect. It's a new hamster wheel, right? And
Mm,
so our outer world starts to line up with our new belief system. Now we're experiencing things that match our new model of the world, but they make sense to us. So we're still in the fishbowl.
mm,
You follow?
hmm.
So we can't really see how much it's changing because we've changed our inner world and now our outer world is matching. And so it's like, well, of course, this is what I expect. This is my model of the world, blah, blah, blah. And you go on that trajectory, if you will, and you're regularly shifting, you're regularly learning. Well, I don't know what I don't know. So let me learn some more and let me shift some more and let me take different actions. And then your outer world is lining up with that. So we can't see the forest for the trees until we go back and look at the former version of ourselves, whether that's in video or a self-evaluation form, which is why that's so important when I work with clients, right? Fill this out, because when you get to the other side of this program or working with me or whatever, you're not going to recognize this version of yourself because everything will have shifted. You won't even know who that person is. And one time I slid that form across the table at lunch with a client who'd finished her 12-week package. She read that. She didn't read the whole thing. She read it and she started to cry and she gave it back to me. And she said, I never want to see that again. Every time I tell that story, it makes me tear up because she had changed so much. She was like, I don't even know who that woman is. So the
Mm,
fishbowl is a really interesting analogy that I kind of just realized recently because now I've shifted. I'm a completely different person, but so has my reality. My world is different because my expectations are different, because my belief system is different, right? So it's matching. So now I'm in a different fishbowl. But I go back sometimes and look at that former version of myself and embrace her and tell her it's going to be okay.
yeah.
It's really cool. Really
That is
cool.
really cool. Yeah, I love that exercise.
Thank you for
And
this.
hey, I really appreciate this. I feel like you and I could just keep going on and on and on. You're
You
very
too.
easy
We'll
to
have to
talk to.
connect again.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. And so uh, for those who are watching this and like, hey, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. Hey, reach out to Linda, right? I'll have your email in the details of the video, as well as I'll post your Facebook profile so that way people can easily message you on
Yeah,
Messenger.
perfect.
And I really appreciate you taking the time. I love the work that you do. I love the Elite Mentorship Forum family in general. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, how you shine your light in your particular way, right? To help those around and to help illuminate those fish bowls and realize,
Mhm.
hey, if I'm going to live in a fishbowl, what if I choose the one that I want to live in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm so grateful for you holding this space, and having this conversation. It's been a lot of fun. And I don't know why I haven't had conversations like this in a while. And maybe it's because I've been traveling so much. People are
Mm,
like, you're never home. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. So powerful in pain management and disease management, because we know without a shadow of a doubt that our emotional state creates, manifests in physical ailments and disease. And if we don't look at them, they just become compounded and bigger and bigger and bigger. Hello, I'm screaming to show you, you need to look at this,
Right.
and that's a big part of what I do with clients. And when they move through the work and they're specifically addressing the things that are causing the hip pain or the throat pain, coughing or whatever, it's amazing to see those things dissipate or disappear.
Yep.
It's basically the same thing, but it's great. It's amazing. So good for you.
Thanks.
I
Well, good
wish
for
you,
us, right? Power
yes,
high five.
absolutely.
Um, well,
Thank you so much.
hey, my pleasure. I really appreciate it. And Linda, may love and truth always guide your path.
Oh, same. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.